Hello! So, today we have to do some introduction notes to the Odyssey. That's what this video is going to consist of. This is going to be one of the only videos, there are a few, but this is one of the only videos that is mandatory for you to watch because I want you to be on the same page as we all are for the Odyssey and this introduction. So, first things first, there is another warm-up that has been posted, so please make sure that you complete that before you watch this video. Just some introduction questions like always. And then again, there's that little spot at the bottom that asks you how you're doing. Tell me something positive. I really do care about hearing about your guys' days. I miss you guys a lot, so I really hope that you're doing okay. And you just tell me anything you need to in that little box on that Google form. Okay, so we will go ahead and get started. There is a note sheet that is attached to this assignment in Google Classroom. You need to make sure that you print that off so that you are ready to take notes along with me. If you don't want to print it off, that is also fine. You can just watch this video, or even if you want to write down some notes on a separate sheet of paper, if that's going to help you. But I do ask that you pay attention and do what's best for you going through these notes. So, like I mentioned, make sure you complete that warm-up number 2 in Google Classroom. You need to answer incomplete sentences in order to receive credit. Some of you for that warm-up number 1, we're just putting like, yeah, this, power, love, success. I need you to actually answer incomplete sentences for you to receive credit. How I'm going to do grades for warm-ups is at the end of every week that we are out of class and on this online learning platform. I will take all of those warm-ups. If you completed it, you get the credit for that day. If you didn't complete it, or you didn't fully complete it, then you won't receive credit for that day. So please make sure that you are doing all of that for each week. Remember, those are going to be due at the end of every single day at 11:59. So we kind of already talked about this brief introduction to the Odyssey yesterday whenever we read Aphrodite and the Golden Apple. This story of Paris choosing Aphrodite as the fairest, giving her the apple, and then him getting Helen. She is married to King Menelaus. Menelaus thinks that she belongs to him. So when Paris kidnaps her, he gets really angry, and that's what's going to start our Trojan War. So remember, Paris kidnaps Helen. Helen comes to Troy. Aphrodite makes Helen fall in love with Paris, so she completely forgets about Menelaus, but Menelaus is not going to forget about that very easily. So Paris has abducted Helen. The Greeks are now angry. King Menelaus, gets the help of other kings and leaders. Remember all those other suitors of Helen that have decided to help him? Agamemnon, one of his brothers. And so they are going to start this Greek war, waging war against the Trojans. So one of the Greeks fighting on that side of King Menelaus is Odysseus. I've mentioned him a few times, and you could probably get from his name that he is going to be our main character of the Odyssey. So Odysseus is one of these people who is going to be fighting one of these leaders in this war. So Menelaus' wife Helen becomes Prince Paris' lover, and that is what is going to start this Greek war. So the Trojan War itself, Menelaus and Agamemnon raise an army to seek revenge for Helen's abduction, so they're really mad. Obviously, your wife gets kidnapped. You're going to be mad. So they send 1,000 ships full of men to wage war. That is a lot of ships. Not as much as we would ever send now to fight in a war. So 1,000 ships full of men, packed to the brim with men, to go fight in this Trojan War. The war itself lasts 10, it's kind of disputed, maybe 11 or 12 years. And the Iliad, which is a story that we are not going to read, it's pretty similar to the structure of the Odyssey. But the Iliad deals with the last years of the war itself, and it tells the story of the Trojan War. In this PowerPoint, I'm basically going over the Iliad and this introduction to the Trojan War, so you guys, we will not read that part. So the siege of Troy itself, Troy is a city, and this is where King Paris is from, and so we have this siege which goes on for 10 years. So a siege is basically just like there are people outside of the city walls, they're battling against this city, trying to get into the city, and they're doing that for 10 years, trying to take over Troy. You see I have a High School Musical reference here, Titanic reference. But they are fighting for a really long time, and they have to come up with some kind of plan for how they're going to overthrow the Trojans here. And that plan takes the form of the Trojan horse. This might have been something you've heard of before, maybe in popular media, maybe in another class. But the end of the war is brought on by Odysseus' idea to use a gift horse because they can't break through the walls surrounding Troy. So the Greeks build this horse, this huge wooden horse. And afterwards, they make it look like they've abandoned their battle site and have left behind this gift as a peace offering. So they build this horse, and then they make it seem like they left, that they peaced out. They're like, yeah, we're kind of done fighting this war. And so they leave this horse outside, And the Trojans come out and say, "Oh, that was so sweet of you. Thank you for leaving me a gift." But we're going to see that that's not necessarily what they were intending. So the Trojans, what they actually did, or what the Greeks actually did, was they had hollowed out this wooden horse, and all of the Greek army, or part of the Greek army, had snuck into the horse. And so they were all just in there, waiting, like crouched down. You have to picture this as like a massive horse for the fact that everyone was fitting in there, but they're all just like crouching, waiting. So the Trojans see this gift, they're like, "Oh my god, that's so sweet." And they bring this gift into their city. And after everyone's partying, everyone's having a good time, all of the Greek army that's inside of this horse bust out and kill everyone, kill almost all of the Trojans. And this kind of starts the saying, beware of a gift horse and beware of Greeks bearing gifts, because they basically trolled all of the Trojans here by hiding in this horse, making them think it was a gift. And once the Trojans brought it inside, busting out and killing every single one of them. So this was actually Odysseus's idea, this Trojan horse. He was the person who started or came up with this idea to overthrow the Trojans. So he's kind of revered in this Greek army because he came up with this idea. So the Greeks, once they enter Troy, they destroy temples, civic buildings, they enslave or kidnap the Trojan women. They're basically destroying the city because they won. It's pretty typical of what happens when someone wins a war. We have all of these kind of tearing down, taking what they think is now owed to them because they won this war and they had to fight it for 10 years. So they destroy these temples. You can probably guess who these temples are meant for. They're meant for the gods. And so the gods are now angry. See the screen cap from Hercules of Hades. So the gods are angry. They're very angry. And as a result, very few of those Greek men are actually going to make it back home to Greece. So they're all going to get onto their ships, but gods are angry with them. And if we're considering how they have to get home, they have to sail on the ocean, which is probably going to make who mad? Poseidon. So he's not going to make it very easy for them to get home, which we see is going to be a pretty hard struggle for Odysseus himself. So this is the Iliad versus the Odyssey. The Iliad is this epic of war, and that's that story I was just telling you about right now, this Trojan War. All of that is considered the Iliad. And now we're moving into the Odyssey. This Odyssey is this epic of the journey home. Odysseus has now fought in this war, and he is ready to go home to his family, to his wife, and to his kid. But that is not going to be an easy journey. It's actually going to be pretty difficult because we know the gods are angry. So Odysseus begins, or the Odyssey begins with Odysseus' son, Telemachus, having to fight off the men who are trying to hit on his mom, Penelope. He isn't happy. He just wants his dad, who has been gone for 20 years, to come home. So Odysseus has been fighting in this war for 10 years, and his journey home is going to take 10 years. So he is actually gone from his family for 20 years. Very long time there. So we have Telemachus trying to fight off the suitors who are trying to hit on his mom. Odysseus is considered this kind of king of Ithaca, where he comes from in Greece. And so when he is gone, all of these suitors are obviously going to come and try to hit on his wife, saying, "Hey, you should marry me so I can become king." And so all of these suitors, over hundreds of them, are trying to hit on Penelope, and his son Telemachus is getting really angry. Whenever Odysseus went to war, Telemachus was just a child, and so now he's in his 20s. So he has basically had this life without his father. And he is still trying to honor his father in this sense. He's still trying to say, my dad is going to come back. Please stop hitting on my mom. And so all of these suitors are kind of getting comfortable in Ithaca. They're eating the food. They're chilling out. They're taking advantage of the women. So not necessarily good guys. And we'll see what happens to them a little later on once we actually start reading the Odyssey. So again, Odysseus' journey from Troy takes 10 years. So most of the Odyssey is told actually as a flashback, which we'll talk about Odyssey structure in just a little bit. It gets kind of confusing, so I want to make sure that we're all on the same page for that. So epics themselves, I've talked about it a few times. Remember, when I say epic, I'm not like epic. I'm like, it's a long poem, so not necessarily as exciting. But an epic is a physically impressive hero of national or historical importance, a vast setting, a quest or journey undertaken in search for something of precious or importance. So we have this physically impressive hero, that is Odysseus. He has fought in this war. He had this super amazing idea with the Trojan horse. So he's pretty impressive. He's our hero. He's our focus of this story. Our vast setting, vast meaning just like really large, really expansive. So it's basically the entire Mediterranean, this ocean as he is trying, or the sea as he is trying to get back to Ithaca. A quest or journey undertaken in search for something precious or important. Odysseus, what's important to him is getting home. So this is his journey to get home. The involvement of supernatural forces, pretty self-explanatory. Those supernatural forces are gods. They're having this kind of supernatural influence on Odysseus's journey. A basis in significant culture or society, that culture being Greek culture. We've talked about it a lot. This importance on love, on tradition, on hospitality. We'll continue to talk about that as we get into the Odyssey. And characters struggling against obstacles. Remember, whenever you have a hero, you also have monsters. So Odysseus is going to be dealing with a lot of different monsters. Actually, our first story, we'll see him having to face some kind of obstacle as well. Now, the epic hero himself, good old Odysseus. So the epic hero represents the values of his or her society. So we have Odysseus pretty much representing Greek culture. He's this perfect idealistic view of Greek culture, someone who focuses on tradition, on hospitality, all that stuff. Every epic centers around the hero. It's going to be his story. And epic heroes are exceptional people who undertake difficult quests or journeys. I just talked about that with our epic characteristics. And they experience many obstacles or conflicts along the way. These conflicts are sometimes external, like facing a monster, and sometimes they're internal, like being trapped somewhere for several years. We're going to see that he is trapped for 7 years in one place with Calypso on her island. So that is pretty much an internal struggle there. This focus on wanting to get home, but also being stranded and stuck. And so they also struggle to overcome their own feelings or fears. We're going to see that Odysseus doesn't show fear very much, but he also has to overcome his pride very often in this story so that he doesn't go and jump to conclusions. So here's a map for what the journey home for Odysseus looks like. You can see Troy on here. It's labeled to number 1, but it takes him 16 steps to get back to Ithaca. You can see all these arrows. It's all over the place. That's because the gods are really pissed off at him. So they're going to make him bounce back and forth like a pinball machine so that he can actually make it back to Ithaca. He has to try really, really hard and face a lot of challenges and struggles. So that is it for this video. I'm going to post another one today that I need you to watch. That is me talking about the structure of the Odyssey. And you'll also have to read introduction for books 1 through 8, which is we're not going to read books 1 through 8. We're going to pick up with book 9. And the next video will make a little bit more sense to you. There are some questions that you need to answer for these notes. Again, they're very brief, but please make sure you answer in complete sentences. Some of you did not do that for your Aphrodite questions, and in order to get credit for that, and it's going to be a classwork grade, you need to actually answer in complete sentences. If it asks for examples from a story in the future, you need to actually pull evidence, meaning I have direct quotations in there. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. Now, after you watch both of these videos, you're probably going to be a little confused, maybe have some questions about the structure of the Odyssey and what's going into it. So I am going to be holding office hours, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing that through Google Hangout, and I will post instructions for how that's going to work. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me on Remind, through Instagram. Some of you have already done that, and I hope that you are getting stuff sorted out and that this isn't coming across as too much work for you. But please keep me updated on what's going on so that I can help you in that sense. Thanks for watching. Make sure that you have this note sheet filled out if you are printing it out or if you were taking notes on a separate sheet of paper. Thanks, guys.